I'm Wilster, and I did my persuasive essay on video game violence. According to a study done by Jody Whittaker from the University of Michigan, 99% of boys have played a video game or will play a video game in their lifetime. Only 94% of girls have, and 70% of those kids playing the video games are underage, playing M-rated games. Due to advancements in technology, games are more realistic, more violent. You can get a lot better graphics. You can make the game seem a lot more realistic than it actually is. Instead of it just being a picture on a screen, people get into it and they can actually see it being part of their lives. Part of the problem with seeing violent games such as like a Grand Theft Auto or Call of Duty is it desensitizes you to violence, whereas this picture here could pretty much mean it's be insignificant, versus if a typical adult were to see it, they would see it as being a bigger issue than a child would be if they're playing this game. This is a picture from Grand Theft Auto 5 that just came out. Just to give you a little information on it, Grand Theft Auto is a video game where people are basically just given a map of, say, like New York City or Las Vegas, and they can go run around, do whatever they want. But the game has missions oriented on it. Like, this is a heist where you go and you try to rob a bank, or you can go shoot up a little convenience store trying to rob it, or you could just carjack someone. You could shoot at the police. It's just a game where you can do whatever you want. But the point is it's very violent because it's oriented towards more of the hijacking part and more of the violence towards policemen. This is one of the pictures from a controversial mission in Modern Warfare 2, where actually this is so controversial that you were allowed to skip this mission in the game. What it is you're a terrorist, and you were supposed to go terrorize a airport by just gunning down everyone in it, civilian or anyone. But people don't see it as being a problem, especially to an 8-year-old playing the game. They might think that that's normal. People don't really see that being a problem. 89% of video games have violent content in it. That was again done by that study by Jody Whittaker. And in that study, they found that your aggression increases after playing a video game. What they did was they had 50 people, 50 undergraduate students, play a video game. They played Mortal Kombat. I believe it was the game that they chose, and I think there's more about that later. But they did study, and they found that the people that had been more exposed to the game were a lot more aggressive. The study also found that first-person mode was more effective than a third-person mode, because when you're in first person, you're playing as that character. You're taking on the responsibilities, you're on a team, and you're fulfilling actions and missions based on how you feel. If you feel when you're running up something you should go right, then you go right, versus watching like a movie or something. Like, viewers were not as affected because the viewers weren't directly affected by it. Unlike when you're playing first person, you're directly affected by it, you're directly controlling what that character does. People also don't think about the motivation behind a video game. Think of it as from a child's perspective. You're playing Call of Duty, and as many of you know, you've played Call of Duty or Battlefield. The more you use a weapon, say you start out with like an M4 and you start, mowing people down without dying, you go through 10 people without dying. They reward you with, if you kill 3 people, you get a care package. If you kill 7 people, you get dogs that come. But people don't think about that, because that's telling the child that the better you are at this, the farther you're going to get, and the more effective you're going to be at killing people, which people don't think that there's something wrong with that. During that experiment done by the University of Michigan, it's very hard to measure aggressiveness. It's kind of like measuring utility as far as an economic standpoint. Aggressiveness is not something where you could say, oh, I feel 9 points aggressive or something or other. What they did was they had them play that game, and then what they did was they gave them extremely hot sauce. And they said, all right, you're forced to give this to a student. How much do you want to give him, even though he doesn't like hot stuff? And that might seem insignificant, but you saw results with people that played the game were very violent towards the other person. They wanted that person to suffer, so they gave them a lot of hot sauce. Versus the people that viewed it, they barely gave them any because they didn't want to influence that. There were a lot of violent acts believed to be related to video games. Like when you saw that guy who went and shot up the Navy Yard, they said that he played Call of Duty for 16 hours at a time. Here's another man, his name is Tyrone Spellman. He actually killed his 17-month-old daughter because she was walking by his Xbox and ripped a couple cords out of the back of the Xbox. And he got so upset with that, and he was so aggressive in playing that video game that he actually ended up killing his 17-year-old daughter. Here's another violent act. Alexandria Tobias, she shook her 3-month-old baby to death because her baby was crying when she was playing Farmville, and she was so involved in the video game. And that shows you that it's not even have to be a violent game. That's not a violent video, not a violent game. It's not even a game you would play on a console, something on Facebook. But that just shows you that even an addiction to a video game can actually be hazardous. Here's one that I thought was very interesting. His name is Daniel Petrick. He was 16 years old, and at the time what happened was he was bedridden with a staph infection. And so his parents allowed him to play video games. His dad was actually a pastor, so he was allowed to play video games, and then after he got rid of the staph infection, his parents told him to get rid of the video games, which he didn't. So he went out and played Halo 3, even though his dad told him not to. So when his dad found the game, he locked it in his safe with his guns. So one day he was sitting there, and his son came into the room and said, "Can you guys please close your eyes? I have a present for you." And he ended up shooting both his mother and father, killing his mother and wounding his father, shot him twice in the head. But the child then left the house, got in a car with the game, and just drove over his friend's house to play the video game. The dad did survive, but that just shows you. In conclusion, I hope you learned a lot about video game violence. I'm not saying that video games are bad. I'm not saying that everyone should not be allowed to play any sort of video game. It's America, you can do what you want. But my whole purpose of this speech was to just inform you that even though you may think that your child is smart enough or sees life as a different thing than a video game, that it's a child. You really don't know what's going on inside of their head. It could be completely different. They could see the two as the same, or they could actually see video games as a reality, and reality is a game. I just want you guys to be careful when you make future life decisions. Thank you.